A chronicle of the history and lore of Warhammer 40,000. In the grim darkness of the far future, there are few warriors as stubborn, disciplined, and unbreakable as the Imperial Fists. Where other Space Marines might seek glory in the charge or victory through speed, stealth, or savagery, the Imperial Fists are different. They are the wall. They are the fortress. They are the final line between mankind and annihilation. Clad in bright yellow armor and armed with an iron sense of duty, the Imperial Fists are one of the most famous and respected Space Marine chapters in Warhammer 40,000. They are the masters of siege warfare, experts in defense, and warriors who have built their entire identity around a single brutal truth. They do not yield. To understand the Imperial Fists, we must go back to the earliest days of the Imperium, to the Great Crusade, and to one of the Emperor's greatest sons, the Primarch, Rogel Dawn. Rogel Dawn was created by the Emperor of Mankind as one of 20 Primarchs, superhuman beings designed to lead the Legiones Astartes across the galaxy. Like his brothers, Dawn was scattered across the stars by the powers of chaos while still an infant, eventually landing on the ice world of Inwit. Inwit was a harsh world, a place of freezing wastes, fortress cities, and a culture built around endurance and loyalty. It was there that Dawn grew into a warrior, commander, and ruler. He became known not only for his strength and tactical brilliance, but for his honesty, discipline, and absolute dedication to duty. When the Emperor finally found Dawn, the Primarch immediately recognized him as father and master. Unlike some of his brothers who questioned, resisted, or struggled with their place in the Emperor's grand design, Dawn gave his loyalty without hesitation. That loyalty would come to define him, and through him, it would define his legion. The Imperial Fists, originally known as the 7th Legion, reflected the character of their Primarch perfectly. They were disciplined, controlled, and relentless. They were not warriors of wild emotion or reckless ambition. They were soldiers of focus, order, and endurance. During the Great Crusade, the Imperial Fist became famous for their ability to conquer the most heavily defended worlds. They were specialists in siege warfare, both in attack and defense. If a fortress needed to be taken, the Imperial Fists would break it. If a fortress needed to be held, the Imperial Fists could make it almost impossible to conquer. They understood walls, weapons, fortifications, and the psychology of war. They knew how to grind an enemy down, how to expose weak points, and how to turn a battlefield into a machine of death. But what truly set them apart was not simply their skill with siegecraft. It was their mindset. The Imperial Fist possessed an almost terrifying level of resolve. Once they committed to a duty, they would see it through, regardless of the cost. They believed that pain, hardship, and sacrifice were not things to be avoided, but tests to be endured. To them, suffering was proof of commitment. Weakness was something to be confronted. Duty was everything. This made them one of the Emperor's most trusted legions. Rogel Dawn and his sons were often given the most important and difficult assignments, including the protection of Terra itself. And that trust would become crucial when the galaxy was torn apart by civil war. The Horus Heresy was the greatest betrayal in Imperial history. Horus Lupercal, one of the Emperor's favored sons, War Master of the Imperium, turned against his father and led half of the Primarchs and their legions into rebellion. Brother turned against brother. Worlds burned. The dream of a united human empire collapsed into bloodshed. During this dark age, Rogel Dawn was given one of the most important tasks imaginable: fortify Terra and prepare the Imperial Palace for war. The Imperial Palace was not just a seat of government. It was the heart of the Imperium. It was the Emperor's stronghold, the symbol of mankind's future and the final target of Horus's rebellion. If Terra fell, the Imperium would fall with it. So Dawn did what Dawn did best. He built a fortress. Under his command, the Imperial Palace was transformed into a vast system of walls, bastions, gun emplacements, kill zones, void shields, trenches, and defensive lines. Every corridor, every gate, every wall became part of a greater defensive design. The Imperial Fist prepared for the coming storm with cold, brutal efficiency. And when Horus finally arrived, the Siege of Terra began. The traitor legions descended upon the throne world with unimaginable fury. The sons of Horus, World Eaters, Death Guard, Emperor's Children, Iron Warriors, and their demonic allies unleashed everything they had against Terra's defenses. The Imperial Fist stood at the center of the Loyalist defense. For days, weeks, and months, they held the line against impossible odds. They fought in the trenches, on the walls, in the halls of the palace, and beneath its shattered towers. They endured bombardments, demonic assaults, and attacks from former brothers who had once fought beside them in the Great Crusade. The Siege of Terra became the ultimate test of everything the Imperial Fist believed. Discipline, sacrifice, endurance, loyalty. And they did not break. Their great rivals during this time were the Iron Warriors, the traitor legion led by Perturabo. Where the Imperial Fists were masters of defense and fortification, the Iron Warriors were masters of siege-breaking, artillery, and attrition. The conflict between Rogel Dawn and Perturabo was more than a battle between two legions. It was a clash of philosophies. Dawn built walls to protect humanity. Perturabo tore walls down to prove his superiority. The Imperial Fists and the Iron Warriors became bitter enemies. Their rivalry forged in blood during the Horus Heresy and carried into the millennia that followed. Eventually, the Siege of Terra reached its final and terrible climax. Horus lowered the shields of his flagship, the Vengeful Spirit, daring the Emperor to come to him. The Emperor teleported aboard with a strike force that included Rogel Dawn and Sanguinius of the Blood Angels. What followed became legend. Sanguinius reached Horus first and was slain. The Emperor then confronted Horus, and after a devastating battle, destroyed him. But the Emperor was mortally wounded in the process. Rogel Dawn discovered his broken father and carried him back to Terra, where the Emperor was placed upon the Golden Throne. For Dawn, this was a wound that would never truly heal. He had done his duty. He had fortified Terra. He had held the line. But he had not been able to prevent the Emperor's fall. In the aftermath of the heresy, the Imperium changed forever. The Space Marines were broken down into smaller chapters under the Codex Astartes, written by Rabute Gilliman. Rogel Dawn initially resisted this change. To him, splitting the legions felt like weakening humanity's defenses at a time when strength was needed most. But eventually, Dawn accepted the new order. The Imperial Fist Legion was divided into successor chapters, including the Black Templars, Crimson Fists, and many others. Each carried part of Dawn's legacy into the future, though often in very different ways. The Imperial Fist themselves remained as one of the most important chapters in the Imperium. Unlike many chapters that recruit from a single homeworld, the Imperial Fist traditionally recruit from several worlds and maintain a strong connection to Terra. Their fortress monastery is the Phalanx, an enormous star fortress and one of the most powerful vessels in the Imperium. The Phalanx is more than a ship. It is a symbol of the chapter's identity. Ancient, massive, and almost impossible to destroy, it reflects everything the Imperial Fists stand for. It is a fortress among the stars. In battle, the Imperial Fists are known for their mastery of bolter fire, defensive warfare, and siege tactics. Their warriors excel in holding ground, securing objectives, and grinding down enemies through discipline and precision. They are not flashy warriors. They are not driven by bloodlust or vanity. They do not seek praise. They simply do what must be done. This does not mean they lack courage or aggression. When the Imperial fists attack, they do so with terrifying focus. They advance under fire, establish firing lines, breach defenses, and destroy their enemies with controlled brutality. They are experts in both sides of siege warfare. They know how to defend a fortress, but they also know exactly how to break one. Their famous stubbornness is both their greatest strength and, at times, their greatest flaw. The Imperial fists can be so committed to duty that they will endure horrific losses rather than withdraw. They are willing to sacrifice themselves completely if the mission demands it. To them, survival is secondary. Victory and duty come first. This mindset is reflected in some of their most brutal traditions. The Imperial fists are known for their harsh methods of self-discipline, including the use of pain as a tool for focus and reflection. Their warriors do not fear suffering. They embrace it as a reminder of their purpose. Pain is temporary. Duty is eternal. Over the centuries, the Imperial fists have fought in countless wars across the galaxy. They have defended worlds from alien invasions, crushed heretical uprisings, and battled the forces of chaos wherever they appear. They have fought orcs, tyranids, chaos space marines, necrons, and all manner of horrors that threaten humanity. Again and again, they have been called upon when a position must be held at all costs. And again, they have answered. One of the most famous moments in their later history was the War of the Beast, a massive orc invasion that brought the Imperium to the brink of destruction. During this catastrophic conflict, the Imperial fists suffered terrible losses, to the point where their chapter was almost completely destroyed. But even then, the legacy of Dawn endured. Their successor chapters helped rebuild them, ensuring that the Imperial fist would continue to stand guard over the Imperium. This is a key part of their identity. The Imperial fist can be battered, broken, and reduced to almost nothing. But they return, like a fortress rebuilt after bombardment. They endure. In the current era of Warhammer 40,000, the Imperial fist continue to serve as one of the Imperium's most reliable defenders. With the galaxy split by the Great Rift and chaos surging across the stars, their role is more important than ever. The Imperium is besieged on all sides. Alien empires rise. Demons spill into reality. Traitor legions continue their eternal war against mankind. And in the face of it all, the Imperial fists stand ready. They are not the most savage of the Space Marines. They are not the most mysterious, the most noble, or the most flamboyant. But they may be among the most dependable. When every wall has cracked, when every defense is failing, when the enemy is at the gate, the Imperial fists are the warriors you want standing beside you. Because they will not run. They will not bend. They will not surrender. Their legacy is not built on conquest alone, but on endurance. They are the sons of Rogel Dawn, the Praetorian of Terror, the Primarch who fortified the Imperial Palace and stood between Horus and humanity's extinction. They carry his stern discipline, his loyalty, and his unshakable sense of duty into every war zone. To the enemies of mankind, they are an obstacle that cannot be moved. To the Imperium, they are a shield. And to history, they are the wall upon which the darkness breaks. The Imperial fists are more than soldiers in yellow armor. They are a symbol of defiance in a galaxy that is constantly collapsing into war and madness. They remind us that in Warhammer 40,000, heroism is not always loud. Sometimes it is silent. Sometimes it is grim. Sometimes it's simply standing your ground when everything around you is falling apart. No retreat, no surrender, no weakness, only duty, only endurance, only the Imperial fists. Please like and subscribe. It will help me greatly. For the Emperor!